I'm going to demo remix-hmr and HDR, or hot data revalidation. So I'm going to create a new project with our experimental release. I'm going to name it my remix app, and I'm going to choose TypeScript. And yes, I'll install. Okay, so that created my project. I'm going to cd into there, and we're going to make it into a Git repository. All right, let's clear the screen and see what we're working with. So a standard remix project. Let's look at the app. So I've got a root route as well as an index route, and I've actually set up Tailwind already in this project. Also notice that I'm using a standalone server.js, so I'm not using Remix's app server. Let's spin up both the app server and the dev server with npm run dev. Okay, so our server is running on localhost 3000. Let's take a look at that. So we've got a very simple Remix application running. In another tab, I'm going to open up my text editor. Let's start by looking at the counter component that I have. So it's just a simple React useState component that increments every time I click on it. I've got two of them here on the page, one rendered at the root route and one rendered at the index route. So let's click on these counters to get some React state on the page that we'll want to preserve as we do our hot module updates. And let's take a look at the network tab as well. All right, so let's change this header to welcome to HMR plus hot data revalidation. All right, and now I'll save. Sweet, so the counters are still stateful and we have our update. And you can see in the network tab that we've updated the manifest and the routes that changed. In the console, you can also see that we detected a component change at routes index, which is exactly right, and that our update got accepted by the Remix manifest. That's an implementation detail that you don't have to worry about. Okay, back to the network tab. And let's change some styles as well. So let me add some red color to really drive home how hot this HMR is. Sweet, so we get styles also being pulled in, and again, the counters still are stateful here. One limitation you should be aware about is that we're using React Refresh under the hood. So for example, if I add a hello h2 right below my h1, React was using the order of these elements to determine their identity. So now it's not going to know that this counter is the same one as we had before. So if I save, you'll see that we've lost the state for the counter that was under hello, this one right here. But the root counter still is stateful. One thing you can do about that is you can add a key to the counter. So let's undo our hello. Now let's add a key. In this case, I'll put index counter. Now I'll add some React state. And now when I add back in my hello h2, React is able to track that counter across these different renders, even though there's other elements coming before it due to the key. Okay, so I just did a full refresh so I can show off the next feature. So let's clear the network tab, and let's add some React state back in. And now let's take a look at hot data revalidation. So let's make a loader. Okay, now let's use that loader with use loader data. And let's pass in that value into our h2 with a hello label right before it. So this should say hello world. All right, so let's save. And you'll see that Remix recognized that it needed to actually run the loader this time. So you can see that happening here. In the console as well, you see loader changed for index route and that we're revalidating. So that means the loader is being rerun. Now in this case, we lost the React state inside of index. That's because React Refresh, whenever hooks are added or removed, it can't track that state anymore. It considers that a brand new component. But we still kept the React state on other parts of the page. Okay, let's add back in the state for index. Instead of adding or removing a hook, let's keep that use loader data, but let's actually change the loader up here. And now when I save, so you can see that we're keeping all of the React state in place, we're not refreshing the page, and we're still getting loader changes reflected on our route. If you want to try it out, you can use the same command I used. npx create remix, make sure you target the experimental branch that has HMR on it, that's the one with the 0EC9 at the beginning. And you can use my template, which is on GitHub here, pcattori remix-hmr-example. So here's the template that I was using. One thing I mentioned was that we're using this server.js. We're not using the Remix app server. Right now there's a limitation in the Remix app server that doesn't make it compatible with HMR. We're working on that. It's just not something that is available right now at this very moment.